be here. My name is Leopoldo Hernandez, and I actually one of the co-hosts for Google Developer Groups over in Fremont, Cloud Fremont, and Cloud Silicon Valley. I am currently in Texas, so it doesn't look super well over here, but rain is keeping me on my toes. Okay, and with us, we also have Roman. Roman, say hello to everybody. How's everyone doing, huh?
Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm super happy to be here, excited. Thank you, Leopoldo. Thank you for this great opportunity. Just wanted to say kudos to everyone who's joining like really super early from wherever you are. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you very much for joining. You guys won't, we'll make it worth your while.
Absolutely, Roman. Okay, if you don't mind me asking, I'd like to ask you a question so everybody just gets to know you a little bit better. So, Roman, where are you originally from?
So I'm originally from Dominican Republic. I speak Spanish. I live here in I live in Boston, Massachusetts, but definitely represent the Hispanic community and the developer community, of course. And I'm just here because I'm really passionate about sharing the knowledge about Flutter. So I'm really happy to be here.
Absolutely, Roman. How long have you been coding? Tell us.
It's been a while, like almost like it's going to 10 years. And then I've dabbled in multiple technologies, but I focus, and I like a couple of the people who actually made the transition from other technologies to like Flutter, because I've done web, I've done mobile, but once I found Flutter, like it's been like a dream come true to develop applications. I like how productive it has made me as a developer. So I definitely encourage people to move to this framework. So a great option, guys.
Absolutely. Okay, and if you don't mind me asking, okay, what originally attracted you to start developing in Flutter?
It was the ease of use, how easy was like the learning curve. It was very, it wasn't as steep as it was, for example, like me developing Objective-C or Android or even BlackBerry, or because I come from the times of like BlackBerry, Windows Phone, and I even did like Xamarin and some of those frameworks. Again, those are really good frameworks, but at the end of the day, your clients want applications that are, again, that you can develop them faster, that perform very well, and then that you can get to market much quicker. And Flutter gives you all those and a little bit more.
Absolutely. And just before we actually get started and I hand it off to Roman, I'd like to run by a few housekeeping items. Okay, once again, as GDG Google Developer Groups community, okay, we want respectful to each other 100%, and we have a zero tolerance policy for things like deliberate intimidation, harassment, all that good stuff. Actually, bad stuff, I apologize. Okay, so we want to be able to be respectful. If you happen to have questions, okay, one thing that I do want to point out is that you do happen to have a chat box over on the right-hand side. Be sure to use that if you happen to have any questions. I'll try to get to them as quickly as possible. Okay, we do have some moderators around, okay, and some self-made moderators, as I can see from Randall. I believe that he pointed it out. Okay, but other than that, we're here to have fun. We're here to develop. We're here to make the best out of it. Okay, so Roman, I'll go ahead and let you take it away. Okay, you ready for this?
Sweet, let's do this.
Let's do this.
Perfect. Awesome. So I already dropped a couple of links in the chat. I'm going to be dropping a couple more links as well. So stay tuned for those, because again, this is going to be a very beginner friendly workshop on Flutter. This is going to be focused mostly on building layouts in Flutter. I'm going to show you a couple of tricks where you're not going to need any installation at all. We're going to be using Dartpad. This is a web-based IDE in order for you to develop Flutter applications. And then you can even grab those applications from dartpad.dev, and you can even bring them into your, let's say, into your development environment of choice, and you can deploy those applications into your phones. I'm going to show you a couple of examples on that in a minute. Let me start sharing my screen so you guys can start seeing. And again, very happy for everybody to join from wherever you are, wherever you join. Thank you so much. And again, we'll make it worth your while. So let me start sharing right now. Let me know if you guys can see my screen. Okay, let me know. Just give me a quick check. Perfect. Awesome. Yeah, so let's start right away. And again, thank you, Leopoldo. You've been such an instrumental piece for this to happen because of the camaraderie and the collaboration that we've done across GDGs to actually bring quality content to our communities, the developer communities. You, the first year, the last year, the person who's already in the industry, you're gonna benefit a lot from this. And I'm very glad that a lot of people are coming to this framework and developing applications in record time. So why don't we start?
Absolutely. Take it away, Roman.
Perfect. So again, this is going to be a very hands-on workshop. We're going to be using Dartpad. And again, let me introduce quickly myself. I'm Roman Jaquez. I'm a Flutter developer at Philips Health Systems here in Massachusetts. I'm also a GDG Northeast mentor, and I'm also the lead organizer at GDG Lawrence. So I'm really happy to be here. Again, this is going to be a code-along session. The first session of two-part sessions. We're going to take like about an hour and a half, 2 hours in order to go through the whole workshop. We're going to try to make it very interactive so that, we don't get tired or anything. And I want also you to be part of the whole process as well. So why don't we proceed? So just a couple of housekeeping announcements. So again, please subscribe and follow to my YouTube channel. I post regularly there about Flutter. I create videos focused on Flutter, on just sharing the experiences on how I develop them. I take you from zero to hero in how to develop Flutter applications. I'm going to be starting again the Twitch live streaming. I used to do them in other technologies like Angular, web technologies. Now I'm going to be doing some more Flutter live coding in there in Twitch. Also, please visit my portfolio site and don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Dear Coders. That is the handle. So you can drop me even a note there or just follow me at Dear Coders and I'll be able to help you in any questions that you may have around Flutter. So thank you very much for that opportunity. So why don't we start right away? So what is Flutter? So some of you who may be introduced or like right now to Flutter, Flutter is a UI framework developed by Google. It's open source, and and it allows you to develop applications for multiple platforms with a single code base. You learn Dartpad, which is Dart, which is the language that you use for developing in the Flutter framework, and you can deploy to multiple platforms: mobile, desktop, web, embedded with one single code base. And the beauty of Dartpad, which is what we're going to be using, is what's going to allow us for that. So I want to make this presentation very interactive. So why don't you guys help me by joining at slido.com. You can use your mobile device. And then you can join at slido.com with the code 491853. I'm going to be asking you a couple of questions. We're going to be doing some like ice-breaking questions, just trying to make it more interactive, more engaging, because I want to get your feedback and I want to make it very interactive with you guys. So please, you can use your phone while you're looking at the presentation. You can go to slido.com with the code 491853, and then I can get maybe some feedback from you, and then we can make it more interactive. So I'm going to drop in the chat the code. There you go. Perfect. Leopoldo, thank you so much. So yeah, so just join at slido.com with the code 491853, and then we're going to proceed. There you go. So if you just join, we just want to ask like some housekeeping questions. Just want to get a feedback from you. So from 1 through 5, what's your level of coding expertise? Are you coming in like brand new? You don't know coding at all? Is this your first time hearing about Flutter? Are you an expert in Flutter? We're getting like some answers already. I appreciate your participation. I see like a lot of people like feel again from 1 through 5, they feel like they're pretty competent about Flutter. Great. And then we see now the kind of level of expertise that you can expect from a group like this. Regardless of what your level of expertise is, this presentation and this workshop, you're going to benefit a lot from it. So thank you very much for your participation. I see that there's a lot of people who, as far as coding in general, not just precisely Flutter, but at least your coding expertise will allow you to jump into Flutter, learning Dart and learning the framework much better. So definitely appreciate all your participation. Great. So let's continue so that we can make some good time. What is your IDE or code editor of choice? So whenever you're now developing your coding in your machine, in your laptop, or wherever, at work, at home, What is your IDE of choice? Just type it in there, and you just leave me a comment, like just in the word, like what is the type of your editor choice. In particular, I like VS Code, but for example, let's say when I used to develop in Android, I used to use Android Studio. Some people still do Flutter in Android Studio. Xcode, let's say if you want to do something specific in Xcode. Perfect. Yeah, I see a lot of extensions. I don't know if you guys remember one called Adobe Brackets. I used to love that one. Sublime, Atom. There's a bunch of those like editors, and some people I know they're probably they're gonna be doing like you know, in the command line, like Vim, VI, Nano. I've even done some of those as well. So perfect. I love the fact, Emacs, of course. So I love the fact that you guys are very, you know, very active in this, and of course, Android Studio. And then you get like your, regardless of the IDE that you pick, it all comes down to whatever makes you productive, whatever makes you develop applications much faster. So awesome. Thank you very much for the participation, guys. And let's do a quick, just a few questions in here in this quiz. I'm just gonna, again, these are like icebreaker questions. What do you think about this trivia question? Just trivia question. Which was the most downloaded app in 2021, in this year? Which one you think has been the most downloaded app in 2021? Was it WhatsApp? Was it TikTok or Messenger? So please drop your answer at slido.com with the code 491853. A lot of people said TikTok. Some people said WhatsApp. Some people said Messenger. Let's see what the right answer was. Exactly, TikTok. So yeah, people love again, you know, be entertained. So of course, TikTok has been like a viral sensation, and a lot of people have downloaded. Specifically, this year was the top one. So I'm glad that a lot of people are aware of that. Now check this one. What's your fuel? Coffee or tea? Let's say, are you a person who likes, you know, their caffeine to get your juices going whenever you're coding? Do you do tea? Are you more like, you know, different flavors of tea? Maybe you don't like that much of the caffeine, although some teas may have it. But what's your liquid of like your fuel? In particular, mine is coffee. Or some people then they just work normally. You know, they don't need maybe they just don't need anything. So what's your jam? Coffee or tea? Again, nothing. This is not like a right or wrong question. This is just to get your feedback. Now let's start. So now, after this, now I'm going to give you one more, and I'm going to ask you, which of the following well-known apps was developed in Flutter? You don't need to know this. It's just like, I just wanted to take a guess. Which one of these following well-known applications was developed in Flutter? You can pick more than one. Was it the eBay, the BMW application, Philips Hue? I work for Philips. They've developed some applications in there. Capital One or the Groupon. Which one was developed in Flutter? Let's see. Some people already took some guesses, and the right answer was all of them. All of these applications, these famous applications, was developed in Flutter. And I even left like a huge list of those applications that were developed in Flutter. So see, more than one reason for you to join the Flutter movement and develop your applications in Flutter, because it gives you that, you know, that the productivity, the way to get to market much faster. Perfect. So now let's start coding, because now we're going to be using Dartpad, which is a web-based IDE to develop applications for Flutter. You can just grab your, let's say, whatever we're going to be doing tonight in Dartpad, in dartpad.dev, and you can even just grab it into your editor of choice. Let's say Visual Studio Code, and you can even build this application. This is the application that we're going to be building. I don't know if you can see it right there. I can launch it again just so that you guys can see it. This is the application that we're going to be building. Of course, you won't be able to deploy it on a device right now, but at least I just want to show you that the same exact code that you see in there, we're going to be deploying it on a device like that. You can deploy it on a device right after. So it's a pretty cool 3-page application. We're going to be using like a splash screen. We're going to be doing like a master detail kind of detail. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing. So I just wanted to prove that whatever we do on Dartpad, you can just grab it and use it as a real application as well. Okay, perfect. So let's not keep talking. Let's go right into coding. So now I'm going to show you how to do that. We're going to be dropping in the link. I'm going to be dropping the first collab that we're going to be working. I don't know if Leopoldo already dropped it, but I'm just going to drop it right here. CodeLab number 1, I created specifically for this workshop. This is not created by Google. I created it myself so I can teach you, and then you can help me out as well. So we're going to be doing like in conjunction. I'm going to be helping you along the way, but you have to also do your part as well to make this work. So, oh, perfect. Yes, exactly. I'm going to enlarge the text as well, so I can do that. Sorry about that. Let me see if you can, right from here in Dartpad, I can just increase the font size. Let me know if you guys can see that. Okay, perfect. Sweet. So now you got the link to the CodeLab. Let me just drop it again, just in case you guys don't have it. And then you should be able to get this page right here, which is the first CodeLab. I created it specifically for this workshop. So in this tutorial, in this workshop, we're going to be creating a 3-page application. In this session today, we're going to be only working on the first 2 pages. We're going to be doing the splash screen, and then we're going to be doing the details page. So why don't we start? If some of you are more like driven and are more like a sufficient to actually even go on your own, please go ahead and do it. At the end of every tutorial, you're going to have like the whole code if you maybe fall behind a little bit, but at least all these CodeLabs, I created them specifically for you, for the person who's starting or who is self-directed, or if you, you want to continue along on your own, perfect. But this is specifically for us to go and do it together. So let's start with, again, CodeLab number 1 with the overview. So the overview, remember I mentioned we're going to do an application with 3 pages. This session is only the first 2 pages. So again, the prerequisites is that you have Dartpad, and then I believe I already dropped the link to Dartpad, so you should be able to have that. Hey, Nav, how you doing, man? Thank you so much for joining. Nav from GDG Montreal is representing. Thank you so much for joining. Again, so let's go back to the prerequisites. The prerequisites is having Dartpad. So if you have Dartpad, if you have an internet connection right now, of course you are because you're here, you can just open up Dartpad. So let's proceed. I'm going to just move this page over to the side, and I'm going to be telling you which step we're going to be doing, okay? So on your own, you can even move it to the side, and then let's start like that. So the first step is launching Dartpad. So as I told you, Dartpad is this web-based application this web-based IDE that allows you to develop Flutter applications on your browser. So let's start right away. And we're in dartpad.dev, then you open up a new pad. So I'm trying to go slow. You can click here on the top left corner of the Dartpad IDE. You can click here where it says new pad. And then it says create new pad. You say discard the changes, yes, because unless you have created something before, it's going to give you this. If not, just go ahead immediately and say create a new pad. You click OK, and then you pick which pad is it that you're going to do. Are we going to be doing just Dart, or are we going to be doing Flutter? So we're going to be doing Flutter. Please select Flutter. So I'm going to select Flutter. You click on create, and then you get a new pad. So you're going to do me a favor. And then on the left-hand side is where we're going to be doing all the coding. On the right-hand side is where you're going to be seeing the output as we code. So please do me a favor and remove everything that is on the left-hand side. You're just going to clean it completely like that. So we're going to start from scratch. So what we're going to be doing is launching Dartpad on a new Dartpad with Flutter. Let me do it again. I can just say new pad, click OK. Select Flutter, click create, and then you get that. So I told you, just clean the whole thing. We're going to start from scratch. So now let's go. If I go back to the tutorial, to the CodeLab that I created, you can go to step 4. So in step 4, I'm detailing exactly what we're going to be doing. So we're going to be working on the splash screen. This is the page that we're going to be doing right now. So if you can even start coding right now with me. I can even drop some of the code in there in the chat, or you can just you can even just follow the workshop exactly the CodeLab the way it is. So in step number 4, you're going to be grabbing this in the section that says start coding the app. You can copy these 3 lines where it says like the import. So I'm going to be copying those 3 lines. We're in step 4 of Flutter CodeLab 1. So I hope that some people haven't fallen behind. So I'm just gonna drop those 3 lines in there. What are these 3 lines doing? So we are importing the material package from Flutter and the main method that every Flutter application needs. The main method is the most important method in a Flutter application. Don't forget about that. So you just drop those 3 lines in there, and then we're gonna proceed. If you continue down in the code lab, it's gonna show you now the next thing that you need. So again, the first thing that you need in your application is importing the material package. Then you have to have a void main method. And now inside of the main method, you need to run a specific method, part of the Flutter framework, which is called run app. The run app is the one that actually instantiates the first widget. There's something that you need to remember. Everything in Flutter is a widget. So after inside of the main method of the Flutter application, you're going to be calling the run app method. So if you go down, here in the code lab, you can copy paste that little method that says run app for you. So just copy that run app method, and then I'm gonna dissect it one more time. So if you just paste that in the main method, perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, guys. Yes. So the main method now has the run app method. The run app method is the second most important method in your Flutter application because it's the one that actually creates the first widget, the material app widget. The material app widget is the rootmost widget in your application, which is kind of like the shell of your application, right? And then there's this flag that says debug show check mode banner false. Is just that just gives you like a little sash on the right hand side of your IDE just when you're debugging. But this we're disabling it, so that's okay just to have it like that. A material app widget needs a home widget, like the home widget meaning the first page that you're gonna see in your application, and we're gonna be calling it splash page. So right now we just have the main method, run app method, and then a material app widget, which is the application per se. And then we're going to be creating now our first page, which is the splash page widget. Thank you very much. So you guys are seeing in the chat also like how the whole thing is it continues. So after you have this, now let's proceed to step number 5. We're going to be creating the splash page widget. Think of this. Everything in Flutter is a widget, a button, a text widget, a label, a container, a row, a column, a page. Everything is a widget. And you can even create your custom widgets, and that's exactly what we're going to be doing here. So you see the line number 7 gives you that like the red line. That means we haven't created the home the home widget that we need to place there. We're going to be calling it splash page. So the first thing that I'm going to ask you to do, we're in step 5. For those of you who are following along, we are in step 5 of the splash page workshop in the code lab. So we're going to be copying one line that's going to represent a global variable that represents the color for this application. So you're going to be copying the final color, main color line. If you see it right here, this line, copy it at the top of the file. So this, all I'm doing here, I'm just creating like a global variable that I'm going to be using it throughout the application. Thank you, Leopoldo. Thank you very much again for dropping the lab for those of you who just joined. So I'm going to be dropping the first line of code, and here, this line, it just represents a global variable that represents the color of the application. So why don't I just also drop here like this screenshot of what is it that we're targeting in this code lab. So that is exactly what we're going to be building. So I'm going to have it right there on the right-hand side, and then we're going to continue coding. So that main color represents that color that we're going to be building. So now we're going to be creating a widget. Remember, everything in Flutter is a widget that will represent the home page for this material app widget. So in the code lab, if you continue down the line, you will see a widget called splash page, which is a class. So I'm going to invite you to type right underneath the main method. Let's start typing, and you're going to be creating a class. So you create your class that extend stateless widget. I'm going to be going into those details later, but a stateless widget is just a widget that renders on the screen. It doesn't maintain any state, it just renders. So again, remember, everything in Flutter is a widget. You can create your own custom widgets. This is how we're going to do it. So you type the word class. In this case, we're going to call it splash page. And then you make it extends stateless widget. Just like that. Yes, of course, Aditya, if you're going to get an error, perfect. That is because we haven't created it yet. So because we're going to be making progress, you're going to be getting errors along the way, which is completely fine. That's exactly what I wanted to do, because you're going to be making progress along the way. So don't worry about the error, because you're going to be showing that piece. So now when you get the splash page, the most important method inside a widget now is the build method. So how do you do that? When you're creating your own custom widgets, you have to override the build method. So the build method, you type the word override, then you write widget, because every build method needs to return the widget that you're building, and then you just call it build. You have to pass the build context. You just type build context, and then you name it context. So far, so good. Yes, some people, again, like I said, you may be getting some errors, but this is how you create your own custom widget. You create a class that extends stateless widget. Now let's continue, and then I'm going to be doing something bogus here. We're just going to say return container. Container is yet another widget. Container is one of the most versatile widgets in the framework, because it allows you for painting, positioning, and sizing. So it's just pretty much like a div for those of you who know, like HTML, for example, something like that. So you see, after you create this, some people the error may go away, and now you can just start hitting run. Run allows you to, after you do your typing, you can start visualizing. But remember, because we haven't created the widget yet, you won't see anything on this right-hand side, which is okay. Now, after you create your custom widget, now we're gonna have to give it more shape. So inside of this container, you're gonna have to build more stuff in it. So let's continue down the line in the code lab, and you're gonna be adding to this container a background color. So how do you do that? Go inside of the container, you just enter on the container, and you find the color property. And remember which color we're going to be using? The main color that we did up there. So it's like a global variable that we're going to be using in our application. So you just type main color. Even if you do something like this and you just hit run, you still don't see anything. Why? Because we haven't added anything to a container. The container is empty. It doesn't have any children or any child in this particular case. It doesn't have a child, so it doesn't show you anything. In this particular case, it will only show you, let's say, the background color in this particular case, but you don't have anything yet. Right now, it's just the background color. So at least you see the color, right? Now, a container, just like any other widget, it either can contain a child or can contain multiple children. So in this particular case, the container takes only one child. So you just here, we're gonna add another type of widget, which is a stack widget. A stack widget is a widget that allows you to position its elements kind of like in a layered fashion. So let's start doing that. Great. Yeah, I'm glad. And thank you very much. I think I'm gonna butcher your name, Siedusama. Again, thank you very much for being also my assistant here. Very good. And he already said that he can only have one child. Very good. So thank you very much for the engagement and the participation, guys. Thank you so much. So a container takes only one child, and that's exactly what you do. So you add a child, and we're going to be adding a stack, which I mentioned. A stack just adds things in a layered fashion. So a stack takes more than one child, so it takes a children property. A children property is an array. So in this array is where you're going to be adding the items inside of your stack. Perfect. So if you continue down the line in the code lab, you're going to be adding other widgets to the stack. In the stack, you can add things based on their positioning. You can align them in the stack. Remember, because they're like a layer, they're like on multiple levels. The topmost item in the stack is actually the bottommost, and the lower one in the stack is actually the foremost item. So that's exactly how we're going to be adding items. Or you can just align them, let's say, to the top, to the bottom, and so on. In here, we're going to be adding an align widget. So we're going to be adding, as the first child of the stack, an align widget. You see, everything in Flutter is a widget, even the positioning. like align, a position. All of those are widgets. So now to the align widget, you have to tell it how you're going to align its child. So you have to say alignment, and then you say alignment center. You get a little bit of intelligence. And yes, Randall, thank you. Some widgets have one child, some have multiple children. In the case of a container, it only takes one. A stack takes more than one. Columns take more than one. Rows take more than one. Thank you very much for that clarification. And again, an align in this particular case takes only one child, the child that needs to be aligned. So what we're saying is align the child of this widget to the center, and then you add the widget that is going to be aligned. In this particular case, we're going to be adding an icon widget. You see, everything in Flutter is a widget. So if you do an icon widget, you just type it like that. And of course, if you want to do it faster, I gave you a little bit of help below. You can just copy paste that align widget, and that's exactly what I'm going to be doing. I'm just going to be copy pasting right here. And those of you who are doing maybe some of the assistance that I'm providing in the workshop, you can just do Shift Tab, and then it aligns your widget like that. So then you can see it like that. So you see the stack takes one child. I'm only adding one child. I'm sorry. The first child is an align widget, which has a circular progress indicator. I'm adding that along the actually that is the bottom one. I'm sorry. So I need to add another widget so it will look just like that. So let me add the icon, which I actually missed it right there. So I'm just going to add another align widget, and then I'm going to say alignment. Remember, I mentioned it above the center, so I'm going to align it in the center. So alignment.center. And then it's going to be an icon widget. So you do child, icon, and it's just that icon that looks like a little mountain. So I'm going to do icons.terrain. And then the color, you do colors.white because I want it to be like white. And you add a size to that icon widget as well. And then you can just add an integer, and that integer would represent like the size of your widget. So right now you should be able to have two widgets inside of the stack. One align widget that will align an icon to the center, and another align widget that will represent that circular progress indicator that is right there. So if I just hit run, for those of you who are following along, you should be able to have this right now. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. And then if you see, exactly. So our icon is one of those widgets that I mentioned earlier that don't take any child. It's just like a standalone widget. Thank you very much for that clarification. So some widgets do take a child. Some widgets are like, again, that don't take any child at all, like the icon, for example. And then you see, for example, right now, you have the align widget that aligns it to the center. You have this widget that aligns it at the bottom center. But then you see that the progress indicator widget, which I already added right there, which I helped you just by adding it right there by going down the line, is a little bit like close to the bottom of the screen. You want to add a little bit of like breathing room to it. So what do? You either add another widget that actually provides the padding, or you add, very conveniently, a container, because a container is one of those, like I mentioned, one of those versatile widgets. Always stopped animation is just the way that it's just a parameter that the circular progress indicator, which is the little spinning wheel that you have in there, that's how you provide the value of the spinning. It has multiple values. Let me show you right here. If you just look at the circular progress indicator, the circular progress indicator has multiple values, yes, that you can have. And then the value color is the color that you provided. So for when you can provide a value to the background and one value to the spinning circle. So then that way you can make it more like customize it to your needs in that particular case. Yes. So right now I'm just saying, add that, but then I see that the progress exactly. So the progress indicator is stuck to the bottom, but we want to add some breathing room. The way to do it is you wrap this widget in another widget. You can use a padding widget, or in this particular case, I just wanted to show you how you can add a container widget. So you can just cut this widget. I can just grab it like this. I can cut it. And then you can add container. you add the padding that it requires, or in this particular case, we're adding margin. I think that's the only one of those widgets that doesn't exist. The padding widget does exist, but margin widget doesn't exist. You use a container and then you add the margin to that. So you can do margin, and then you add the margin using, for example, the way that you add margin or padding to a widget, you use edge insets dot only, or you can use all, or 0. So it has like a bunch of options. In this particular case, you use only if you only want to add padding to one of the coordinates, top, bottom, left or right. So here I'm just gonna say only to the bottom, add 80 pixels of margin to this widget, then I add that widget right there. So I'm just wrapping this widget. So I'm wrapping the align widget inside a container, and then just adding the margin that it requires. If I just hit run, now you should be able to see the spinner with a little bit of margin at the bottom, and at least it doesn't look that tight. So you see, in a very little bit of code, we were able to create like a splash screen, something very simple. But at least I just wanted to show you, again, how to use a container widget, how to use other widgets, for example, like a stack that take more than one child, and you can align the widgets inside. So that is very versatile. So that's exactly where I would want you to be right now. Those of you who are following along, I hope that you guys are at this point. Yes, and exactly. Dartpad, of course, Randall. The reason why we picked this is because, of course, we wanted to forgo the whole installation part, and we wanted to go right into the coding. But yeah, there are way better, IDEs than Dartpad for like wrapping and stuff like that. Yeah, definitely. So hey, why don't we proceed? So at least we have the splash screen. Now let's continue to the next step, where we're going to be adding more functionality to it. So now we are in step 6 of Flutter Code Lab number 1, step 6. So we're in step 6. So now we're going to be creating a dummy landing page. So what we're going to do is the splash screen is going to spin for a little bit. Then after a few seconds, it's going to go to another page, kind of like what a splash screen would do, right? So let's do that. So I think I already provided in step number 6, I provided the scaffold of what the next page would be. Remember, every page, every object, almost every object in Flutter is a widget. So I created one page called splash page, which is a widget. Now I'm going to be creating the next page, which is going to be kind of like our landing page. So in step number 6, at the bottom of step number 6, I gave you a little bit of the boilerplate code for the landing page, which I'm calling it Mounds app. Please copy that. And then all the way at the end of the file, just paste it. So I'm just going to paste that, and everybody should be able to have now this class. So again, everything that you create in Flutter is a widget, whether you create the whole page, the whole application, a button, a column, again, a stack, a container, all those are widgets, even custom widgets like we're creating right now. So again, when you're creating your custom widgets, you create a class, you name it anything you want, and then you either extend stateless widgets or stateful widget. I'm going to do stateful widgets down the line, but right now we're going to be focusing on stateless widgets. Remember, you always override the build method. This is what returns your structure. And then here I'll just have like just returning like a scaffold with a center widget and a text widget that says, welcome to Mounds of the World. Something very simple. Right now, even if you run it, you still don't see that application because we haven't navigated to it. So now let's go now to step number 7 on the splash screen. So I'm now on step 7, and now I'm going to be showing you how to do that. So we're going to be simulating, spinning a little bit, going to the next page of this application. So what do we do? In step number 7, I'm showing you how to add a delay in your application. So in Flutter, Flutter has a concept of futures. Some of you who come from the web world know it as a promise, know it as observables. Let's say if you know like the RxJS framework. A future is just an object that represents a delayed computation. So what we're going to be creating is a future that we're going to delay the computation for a few seconds. Then after the few seconds, then we're going to perform a navigation to another page. So that's exactly what we're going to be doing. So please direct your attention to, again, back to the splash page. Leave the Mounds app application at the bottom. Leave it right there. And let's go to the build method of our splash page. At the top, inside of the build method, at the top, you're going to be creating what we call a future. And then future has a specific method called delayed. So you're going to type it like this. You say future dot, and then future, you see, has a bunch of options. The one that we're going to be using is called delayed. So the delayed function in the future object allows you to perform just the delay, and then you can proceed and do another computation. I helped you a little bit, and then I provided that code right there, so you can just copy paste it, and then you can just paste it right there. And then let me just dissect the code one more time. So if I can just do that, you see that the future.delayed, sorry about that, you give it a duration of 2 seconds, and then the delayed function takes a callback. So after the duration elapses, after the 2 seconds, is going to call your callback. Inside of this callback, this is what you have. So we're going to have a Navigator. Navigator is, again, another utility of Flutter that allows you to perform navigation between pages, and then you pass the context. Almost everything in Widget, it gets thank you very much, Leopoldo, for that piece. For those of you who don't have it, but it's already also pasted in the codelab. But the future, again, you actually some of the utilities in Flutter take the context. A context is an object that represents the location in the widget tree as your widget gets created. And then this context gets injected to every widget so that the widget can query stuff like maybe the theme of the application, the size of the application, stuff that comes from the parent, and so on. So almost, and then the way to do what we're doing right here is actually pulling the context. Actually, from the context, we're pulling the Navigator. The Navigator gets injected at the root, and that's what we use to do the navigation inside Flutter. So what we're saying is, give me the Navigator and push a route. A route, in this particular case, we're calling that then a material page route. The material page route wraps a widget, and then it allows you to perform a navigation, and then taking you to the other widget, which is the next page. In our case, is the Mounds app. So we're going to be performing a delay, 2 seconds delay, and in the callback, we perform a navigation to the next page where we're calling it Mounds app. So I provided the coding there. All you have to do is just copy paste it inside of the build method on top of the return. Now I'm going to hit run. And then all of you who are following along, you should be able to be at this point, 2 seconds delay, and then you get the next page. That is navigation in a nutshell. So you, again, let me recap. You pull the Navigator out of the context, you call the method push, and then you push a route which actually builds or encapsulates the next widget or the next page that you want to display in the navigation stack. Flutter also does the same. That same thing. It's kind of like a navigation stack. It pushes screens one on top of the other in a stack fashion. So let me run it again. It waits 2 seconds because that's the delay, and then it goes to the next page. Perfect. Awesome. Siedusama, thank you so much. You're a rock star, man. I'm glad that you completed at least the first part of the code lab. So again, for those of you who already completed it, kudos. And I'm glad that you got to this page. So kudos to everybody. We just completed code lab number 1. Thank you so much. So now, as a wrap up, we're let me just recap again what we did. So remember, we created, we imported the material application. We added our first global variable that represents the color. We created the void main method, which is the most important method in Flutter. The run app is the one that actually instantiates the first widget of the whole application, which is the application itself is a widget, which is the material app widget. Then you have to supply the home. The home property has to be another widget, which is the first page, in this case, the splash page. The splash page has a container with a background, and as a child, a stack with 2 widgets, the icon and a circular progress indicator. So simple as that, we just created our first page. Awesome. Now I'm going to be providing the next code lab, And while I do that, I'm going to be dropping it here in the chat. So you're going to be ready for code lab number 2. Code lab number 2, we're going to be delving more into the Mounts app or the landing page. But while you do that and you get to do that, I'm going to give you a quick quiz again on what we just did. I want to gauge your knowledge on what we just did because we want to make it very interactive. So those of you who, if you don't mind, let's join at slido.com with the code 491853, and let's see what you guys just learned from just the first code lab. Let's get ready. Question number 1. What is the most important method in a Flutter app? Is it the main method? Is it the run app method? Or the build method? So some of you are already dropping some of the answers. What is the most important method in a Flutter application? I'm going to give you a chance. We already went through whatever you did. Thank you, Leopoldo, for dropping the code. Again, join at slido.com with the code 491853. Tell me what is the most important method in a Flutter app. I think we went over that, but let's gauge your knowledge. I think we already have some answers, and a lot of people are saying the main method. Some people say the run app method, and some people say the build method. The correct answer is the main method. The main method is the most important method in the Flutter application because it's the one that bootstraps the application. The run app is the second most important method in the application because it's the one then that adds the root widget, which is the material app widget, and he tags it on as the root of the widget tree. Good try, guys. But yes, the main method. Now, the next quiz question. What is the most important method in a Flutter widget? Remember, we created a custom widgets, 2 custom widgets actually. The splash page, and we extended the stateless widget. We extended stateless widgets. Remember, stateless widgets just render. That's all they do. So what is the most important method in a Flutter widget? Remember, we created those 2 widgets, the splash page and the Mounts app, which is the landing page. Let's see what some answers are people saying. People are saying the build method. Nobody's saying the init state. Nobody's saying the constructor. People are saying the build method. So for you, what is the most important method in a Flutter widget? And the answer is the build method. Correct. The build method is the most important method in any widget. Why? Because the framework is the one that calls the build method. The build method gets called by the framework once the widget gets inserted into the widget tree. So that's why it's the most important in a Flutter widget. So thank you very much for participating. Now, which of the following containers or which of the following widgets takes more than one child or has a children property? Is it the container widget, a stack widget, or the align widget? So for you, which one of the following widgets takes more than one child, has the child property, the children property? Which one of these 3? The container widget, the stack widget, or the align widget? So let's see what people are saying. Some people are answering the container widget. Some people are saying the stack widget. Some people are saying the align widget. So remember, a widget that takes one child, or it could, so you may think of a widget that, take more than one, more than one child. You can add one, but there are widgets that only take one, and then that's it. But you can add under that, you can add more. So let's see what people, what the right answer is, and it's the stack. The stack is, out of these 3, the widget that takes more than one child. It has the children property. The align widget only aligns one single widget. It could be a whole tree, but at least it's only one child. It has a child property. The same as container, it only takes one child. That's why it only has the child property. And the stack has children. You can add more than one. Thank you very much for participating. Let's get back again to Dartpad. So I've already dropped, and I'm going to do it again. I have code lab number 2. We're going to proceed with code lab number 2, where we're going to be diving into the next page that we're going to be building. So let me show you the next page that we're going to be building in this particular workshop is this one. So this, if you see right there, this is a little bit complex, but we're going to be testing our knowledge on laying out. Remember, this workshop is solely on layouts. We're not tapping into HTTP calls. We're not making RESTful APIs. We're not doing stateful management. We're only doing layout building. And that's exactly, yes, exactly. So we're going to be focused on laying out. So that's exactly what we're going to be doing right now. So please, let's all go to Flutter Code Lab number 2. And let's start with the initial setup. So the initial setup, I already created like how in your mind you can visualize how you can divide, let's say, your widgets. I made it like that so that people know that widgets are not intimidating. You can just look at a widget or a page like this, and if you just dissect it and divide it into multiple rows and columns, you can divide and conquer, and you can visualize it better, and you can easily break it down into multiple widgets. When you see a page like this, you're like, whoa, this is way too much. No. Break it down into multiple widgets, and then you tackle one at a time individually. And that's how Flutter uses the term of widget composition, because even a page like this is actually composed of multiple widgets. Each widget in turn can be composed of multiple widgets. That way you make the rendering more efficient, because the updates can be concentrated on each build method of each individual widget. So let's stop talking, let's proceed. So for those of you can continue, let's say on your own on Flutter Code Lab number 2, but I'm gonna be walking you through. So let's start with page number 3, creating the landing page. So the first thing that we're going to be doing, or actually what I suggested you do on step number 2, is actually, instead of every time we hit run, we see the splash screen and then we go to the landing page, we're actually commenting out the splash page, and we're going to be pointing the Mounts app custom page widget so that we always land on that page. But this is temporary. So that way, every time we run, we always land on the Mounts app page. Awesome. So let's now proceed all to step 3, where we're going to be adding stuff to this page. So now let's all focus our attention to here, to the Mounts app. I'm even adding space so that we can just put it up here. So there you go. So the Mounts app, again, because it's a custom widget, it overrides the build method. And what I'm returning out of the build method is a scaffold. A scaffold is another helpful widget because it gives you out of the box quick utilities and object and widgets that you can just immediately hit the ground running. For example, like it gives you bottom bar, it gives you a header, it gives you a drawer. I'm going to show you how to implement that in just a minute. So inside of the scaffold, let's all direct our attention to step 3, where we're going to be adding stuff to the scaffold widget. So inside of the scaffold widget, in step number 3, I'm adding I'm populating 2 properties. The app bar, so you just type app bar, and then you instantiate an app bar. This app bar is another widget. So app bar is just the top application that you get on every material application. And then you also add the drawer. Drawer is another very useful widget, and then you just instantiate it by just typing drawer, just like that. And the app bar and the drawer are the 2 of the properties that are available in the scaffold that give you things right out of the box. So look at this. If I just hit run, I already get 2 things out of the box without me doing any coding. Actually, just typing them at least. And look at that. I already get a drawer, which is another widget. And then I get the top app bar, which is another widget, for free, just by typing those 2 things. So let's proceed. So now that we have those 2 things, we can continue making progress. Inside of the scaffold, I like to give a scaffold. If you see like the background where it says like welcome to Mounts of the World, there is actually a background. It's like a grayish type of color. That is like the default theme that it gives you that color. But I want to make it white. So how do you do that? Inside of the scaffold widget, you populate the background color. So you do background color, and then you just add colors.white. Thank you. Yeah, who doesn't like free, of course. That's my kind of price. So there you go. So the background color, you just do it like that. And if you hit run, it will barely be noticeable, but you will see that it will change to white, like you make it more prominent. So after you do that, you will see now, of course, that we've already created step 3. Step 3 is done for us. Why? Because we already have the app bar and we already have the drawer. 2 more widgets that we got for free. Let's proceed to step number 4. So in step number 4, we're going to be creating the app bar. So if you want, you can just continue your application just using that default bar. But I'm the type of person who likes my applications very customized, customizing it for my clients and make them very unique. So in my design, you see that in this particular case, out of the box, I just get a blue app bar. But here I have it transparent. The icons are like another color. And instead of adding like a title, like you've seen on multiple apps, I have an icon. So let's do that. So let's go to step number 4 and let's go inside of the app bar. So in the app bar, you're going to add 3 values, whichever I'm already providing in the code lab, which are the elevation. I'm going to just copy paste it right there in the step number 4. You have those 3 lines and you just paste it inside of the app bar. And let me dissect the code. So elevation is a value that you can give it that gives it the shadow. So when you say elevation 0, that means no shadow. You see like there's a little bit of shadow. Background color is that blue. So if I want to override it and say I want it transparent, you just say background color transparent in the app bar. And then the icon theme, that's the color that I want all the icons that show in my app bar to have it. In this particular case, you provide an icon theme data and then you pass the color. Our color is the main color. So once you do that and you hit run, remember just 3 properties: elevation, background color, and icon theme. And I've already customized my header, made it transparent, no shadows, and with the icon theme. Let's continue. So instead of adding a title like people do, for example, like this, people do usually like a title and they add like a text widget and say like, this is my title. For example, like they add a title to their app bar. I usually don't like that. I like to make it like more custom. And then in this particular, they do, for example, like this and say textile, color, colors, or actually I'm going to say like main color. I'm going off the cuff here. It's just that I wanted to show you this quick example. So usually people do this and they add like that. I usually don't like titles in there unless your application requires it. In my case, I want to add something more custom. I want to add an icon. So in the code, let's all add an icon. Instead of a label like a text widget, I'm going to be adding a center widget. So you just type center. And then again, center is another widget, kind of like a line, and it's going to center whatever you give it. So it takes a child. Remember, these are one of those widgets that only take one child. And then you just type child icon. So we're going to be adding another icon widget. So in your icon widget, let's give it our widget, our icon, which is the terrain. So you do icons.terrain. And then you provide a color to this widget. We want that color, the same theme color. So you do color main color. And then you add a size to the widget. We're going to do like a 40, something like that. So let's see what it looks like. And then in this particular case, instead of a title, I have an icon. So you see that the icon looks a little bit like skewed. It looks a little bit to the side. So how do you compensate for the fact that my app bar has the hamburger menu already on the left-hand side? It has a widget in there, but it's because I'm missing something on the right-hand side. So a trick that I like to use is actually adding something on the right-hand side, which the app bar already provides you via a property called actions. So actions is a property on the app bar that allows you to add like more options on the right-hand side, like another menu or something. You've seen this like on Android apps or other apps where on the right-hand side of the app bar, you have like a menu. So the property is called actions. It takes an array of widgets. It's almost like one of those widgets that take a children. So the actions, you give it like other widgets. You can give it like a menu. You give it like more things. In this case, all I want to do is just an empty box that will serve as the placeholder of that corner so that the little icon looks a little bit more aligned. And all you have to do is just use a widget that is like transparent, like a empty widget called sized box. So you use sized box. And then you just give it a width of 40 and a height of 40, for example, something like this. If you just hit run, you will see now that the icon at the top will look a little bit more aligned. There you go. Just because I added that little spacer in there, it's kind of like a spacer widget, something like that, if you will. So that's it. You see, now we have a very custom app bar that you can use in your application. Very simple. And then I was able to customize it so that it looks very much like my existing design. And there you go. That's it. So why don't we proceed next? So how's everyone doing? Maybe you can give me a little thumbs up. Let's see in the chat how people are doing. Are you guys following along? Are you guys liking? Perfect. Awesome. So I'm glad that people are following along. Some people are very enthusiastic and you're helping me out. Truly appreciate it. Thank you very much. So let's proceed to the next step. Step number 5 on the Code Lab, we're going to be working with the drawer. Remember, the drawer is another widget that you get for free just by adding a scaffold. Yes, the code. I can even paste you the whole class, or yeah, exactly. If you want to do that, I can definitely do it for you right here. Remember, for those of you at the end of this Code Lab, the whole code is there. But try to, what I'm trying to do here is like motivate you and force you a little bit to do some typing just so that you can learn along. But it's okay if you guys want to watch and maybe later watch the video if you want. That's totally fine. But I wanted to force you to do a little bit of typing because that's how you gain the proficiency in Flutter. But definitely, yes, I can definitely paste the code in here. Or like I just mentioned, at the end of this tutorial, at the end of this Code Lab, the whole code is there and you can grab it from there. But I don't want you to cheat. If you want to, do it, go ahead. That's okay. But at least I wanted you to motivate you to do the coding along with me. But totally fine. You can grab the code and continue. Yeah, all of it, exactly. The whole thing is there. Yeah, and but definitely, yes, I can definitely even just grab this piece right here. So let me just copy paste it if you guys want. I think it may disrupt other people, but I don't know if this would be like very formatted. I'm going back to yeah, exactly. If you missed anything, no, we're still in step 5, which is the drawer. I haven't gone any further than that. So and again, all you can do is yeah, exactly. Which part did you miss? So I can either copy paste it, or anybody who has gone along, yeah, you can even grab it from there if you want. But like I mentioned, at the end of the Code Lab, the whole code is there, and then you can follow along. Great. So now let's work on the drawer. The drawer is just the widget. Remember, the widget that represents like the drawer right here, like just here. That's it. The splash part, if you do the splash part, it's also like at the complete code is there. You can just grab it as well. You can just find it in there if you want. Let's go to step number 5, which is the drawer. So now all I have to do is just delve into this little widget, which is the drawer. So the drawer is very simple. It's just a widget that can take other widgets. And all you have to do, and a drawer is another one of those widgets that only takes one child. So it's like a single child type of widget. So you just type in there, and then you create a child. And then the child that we're going to add into the drawer is a container. So we're going to be typing container. Yeah, great. So I'm just going to add a container, and you know already the container, you know how it works. So you just type, you add properties to it. So we're going to add some padding to it. And then the padding works just as before. You use edge, insets. And then I'm going to be using the all option, and all allows you to add padding all around it. So I want to add 30 pixels all around the container inside of the drawer widget. And thank you for, yeah, great. Thank you. So if you can actually get more code again from the last step. So after that, I add the padding. I'm going to add the color to the container that I'm adding to the drawer. So I'm going to say color, main color. And then I'm just adding the color to that container. And last but not least, I'm going to add an alignment to this container. So I just type alignment. And then I'm going to say alignment at bottom left. So you have bottom center, bottom left, bottom right, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to say bottom left because I want all my items to be aligned to the bottom and then to the left. So just by having that, you should be good. Now, if I just hit run, let's open the drawer, and you see that the drawer already adopts the color that I gave it because the drawer has as a child a container with just the color. But what do I want to add inside of this container? All I want to add is just the icon. So the icon that just shows at the bottom. So let's add, remember the container takes one child. So you add child, and let's add that same icon. So let's go with icon, another one icon widget. And then you add the icons terrain. I encourage you to use the icons from the material design provided by Google. This is where I actually got those icons. You don't have to install anything. It already comes by default in your Flutter installation when you create your first Flutter application, when you do the Flutter create, and you can use any of these icons because it allows you to not to import like any other images, and you can use a vast number of icons for free for your applications. That's exactly why I'm getting all these icons. So I encourage you, I'm going to drop the link here to the material icons if you guys want to use that. And yeah, definitely look very sleek, and they're vector based because they're very sharp. So I've just dropped the fonts for you guys if you guys want to use it in your apps. So let's continue. I'm going to add a color to this icon widget. I'm going to make it white and say colors.white, and then add a size of 80. If you continue hitting run, remember this is an autosave, and you hit run, and then now you click the drawer after we've done our rebuilding, and there you go. So this is a very simple example of your drawer, but you can add a lot more things in here. You can add menus, you can add more widgets, you can add more interactivity if you want. I just wanted to make it like really simple so that you can see how you can in with very minimal amount of code, you can do like a lot. So awesome. So that was the drawer widget. Again, I hope you guys are following along. For those of you who may have fallen a little bit behind, like I said, the complete code is all the way at the end in this workshop. So let's continue. Let's go now to step number 6. What we're going to be doing is more widgets. So we're going to be creating more custom widgets. Now we're going to be focusing on this little widget, which we're going to be calling it app header. Just this piece right here. Look, just that piece, we're going to be creating it as a separate widget, and we're going to be calling it app header. You can call it anything you want, as long as you create a class that extends either stateless widget or stateful widget. You're creating your own custom widget. So that's why that's why I mentioned earlier, we compartmentalize your application, and then you split it into multiple widgets to kind of like either divide and conquer. Maybe you have a team, and different teams focus on each particular feature. So let's proceed. So on step number 6, we're going to be doing the app header, and you see how I told you how mentally you can kind of distribute your application. You see how I broke it down. It's very simple. It's not very hard. It's just a container with a row, another column for the labels, and so on. So it's very simple. So let's work on that. So let's right here in the same mounts app widget. Of course, unfortunately, Dartpad doesn't allow you to collapse. So we're going to have to stick with just going down here into the body. And then we're going to be replacing, the first thing that we're going to be replacing is just the body. So in the body of your scaffold, in the mounts app widget, replace the center widget by a column widget. So a column widget, like I mentioned earlier, a column widget is one of those widgets that allows you to align your widgets vertically, one on top of the other, and it takes a children property, so it takes more than one. And then you can add more like alignment capabilities. In this particular case, like left aligning things on a column widget, you have to say cross alignment start. So let's all type cross alignment. Cross-axis alignment, cross-axis alignment, and then you do cross-axis alignment, dot, and then you see you got like center and start. The left aligning, we're saying start. There you go. So far, so good. Awesome. So now what you're going to add, a column takes children, so it takes more than one child. So what we're going to be adding is a children property, and remember, children is an array, because you're going to be stacking, kind of stacking, but like adding them vertically, and you're going to add them one on top of each other. So that's why you need to add them as an array. So the first item that we're going to be adding, and I know what some of you are going to be saying, I'm getting an error. Yes, because we haven't created it yet. So the first item that we're adding to the column is a custom widget that we're going to be creating. We're calling it app header. You just type it like that, app header, even though it's going to break for you because it hasn't been created yet. But we're going to be calling app header. You can call it anything you want. I'm calling it app header. And then because I'm creating a custom widget. So what I'm going to be doing here is just like I'm showing you in step number 6, I'm adding a comment, and I'm going to be calling it, I'm going to add a comment saying widgets. Comments in Flutter are just like 2 slashes, and you can do anything after that. So I'm just adding a comment. And I'm giving you in the tutorial a little bit of boilerplate code how to create like the stateless widget. So please copy paste the little bit of code that I provided for the app header. And you just paste it there like that. So the app header is a custom widget that will represent that app header right there. So after you paste that, if you hit run, we should be able to start seeing something, and then you will see here like the word that says header. So now we have our placeholder that we're going to be delving into. Now let's proceed and work on this widget. So you see now you've already mounted a custom widget in there. Now let's proceed and work on that widget. So the first thing that I'm going to ask you to do is add padding to this widget. So remember, like before, you add padding just by typing padding. And then you add edge insets only. Remember, only you use only to only add to either individual coordinates of your container. And then I'm going to be using only and adding only padding for left 30 pixels, top 30 pixels, and right 30 pixels, just like that. If you guys don't wanna type all that, I can just copy paste it in here, and you can just do the padding. So the padding is just edge instance only 30, 30, 30, left, top, and right. That's it. If I hit run right now, you will see now the header widget will show the padding around it, but only left, top, and right. That's it. Simple as that. Now we're going to be modifying it a lot more. So what we could do is just replace the child that is existing in the container right now. Just replace that text header because we're not going to need it. And let's add a row. Remember, we've already added a column widget. Now we're going to add to the main application. Now we're going to add a row widget to this custom widget. So all you have to do is just type row. And row, just like the column, it takes children. So if you just type children, just like before, you add like an array like that, and then you add multiple widgets. So now the first widget that we're going to be adding to this row is that little avatar circle widget in there. And we're going to be using one special widget called Clip Oval. Clip Oval is a widget that anything you add inside it, it just clips it into a circle. It's very, very versatile, very simple. And I've already added the helper code in there. You just copy. I can even paste it in here in the chat if you don't want to type that much. So you can even use, and then if you see now the clip oval, like I mentioned, is just the widget that clips anything as a circle. What I've added as the child to the clip oval is an image that I'm retrieving from the network. In this case, I'm using just the image from my GitHub account. And then you see the image network is just another widget, but it takes an image from the network. You give it a width, you give it a height, and a way to fit it. And the way to fit it, I say cover, because I wanted to keep the same aspect ratio regardless of the size of the image. I'm forcing it to be 50 by 50, but then I wanted to cover the whole container. And then now if you just hit run, you will see that my image just shows there. So a clip oval is one of those simple widgets that you just wrap something, and then it clips it as a circle. Very cool. Let's proceed down the line. We're still in step number 6, just again to remind you. And we're going to be adding a column. So if you see on the left-hand side of in the design, if you see the mouse moving, next to the image, I have like 2 labels. Hello, Roman. Good morning. The way that they are stacked is because it is in a column. So we need to add a column widget and then stack them both one on top of each other. So right under the clip oval, let's all add a column widget. So right under the clip oval, let's all add a column widget. And then a column widget, like I said, it takes children, and you do like some alignment. In this particular case, you see like the hello, Roman, and good morning, they're left aligned. So let's add a left align, or using cross axis alignment of start. There you go, like that. And then that's all saying just left align it. That's it. And then as a children, what we're adding is 2 text widgets. One text widget that has the name, and one that says like good morning. So I'm gonna copy whatever is there. I'm already providing that code for you guys in there, and I'm just gonna copy paste it from the code lab. So you see what I like about this code labs is that I don't give you everything as a copy paste. I'm giving you a balance so that once you get into the familiar in the familiar aspect of you coding it, and also giving you a little bit of help so that you move along. But because this is like boilerplate code, you can copy paste it real quick. But I want you to do a little bit of effort as well in learning this. So let's proceed, and I'm just gonna tab it to the right, and then you see that the column just text to widgets. A text widget that just takes a string, and you add a style. The style, that's how you provide styling to each one of your text widgets. You add color, and you add font weight. And in this case, I'm saying font weight bold. And then the bottom one has a main color and a font size of 12. If I just hit run, you should be able to see now the widget showing up. Perfect. But now you see that it's a little bit tight. So how do you actually add some spacing in between? Right at the end of this page in step number 6, I'm showing you how you could do it. You could either do many ways. You can wrap your column in a container or a padding, and then you add like margin or padding, or you can just hack it and you can just add an empty box in there using a sized box. So you could just type in between the clip oval and the column, you can just do sized box, and then you add just like some width. So it's gonna be like a transparent box in there, like an empty box. So you do like 20 pixels of size box, and then if I hit run, you will see that now there will be a little bit of spacing between the image and that column. And there you go. That's it. Awesome. Perfect. How's everyone doing? Awesome. I'm glad that everybody's sticking around and you guys are following along. Again, like I said, if you're following along, I'm glad that you are. If you've fallen a little bit behind, the complete code is at the end of this code lab if you want to do that. So let's proceed now to step 7. In step 7, now we're going to be focused on the next widget, which is this one right here. I'm calling it app search. You can call it anything. Like I said, I'm creating all this as custom widgets. So let's go through this one. Let's create the layout for this widget. So you see it has a label. It has like a little bit of a search field in there, but I'm not using a text field. It's just, remember, we're focusing only on layout creation. So let's go ahead and create this custom widget. So just like in let me repeat step number 7 of code lab number 2. So now I broke it down for you so that you see how it's broken down. So you have like a container, you have a column, then you create a row and so on. You see how I dissected it, so you see exactly how it's broken down. So let's immediately create. Let's go back to our main widget, which is the Mounts app widget, which is the whole page. And right under the app header, we're going to create this other custom widget. Remember, it's going to fail for you. Thank you, Leopoldo, for dropping step number. Actually, you can drop step number 7 because we're doing the app search. So yeah, let's create that. So all I'm going to do right under the app header, I'm just going to type app search, and then that's it. It hasn't been created. We're going to be creating it now. And then I already added in the same step number 7, I added the boilerplate code so that you don't have to be creating it. But because it's all the same, every custom widget, you have to extend either stateless or stateful. I'm just going to paste it right under there. And then that's it. You see, you need to override the build method. It's all boilerplate. You can even add that, and I know Randall will support me on that. I would definitely support creating, like using snippets, like Flutter snippets and code snippets that you just type a little, and then it gives you the boilerplate code for that. Exactly. Unfortunately, Dartpad doesn't give you that, but I want to force you to type it, and in some cases, I'm providing it for you. So there you go. So we have the app search widget. If you hit run, now we'll be able to see the next widget, which is the app search. So once I hit run, now you will see the placeholder, and then it just says search. There you go. That's it. That means this widget has been mounted into the widget tree. Now we are ready to proceed further. So the first thing that we're going to be doing is adding padding to this app search widget. So same thing as before. Let's add padding. I'll add padding to this widget. Edge insets at all. So I'm adding 30 pixels all around. on this app search widget. You hit run, you will see now the padding showing all around that container. There you go, very simple. Now we're going to be proceeding and adding a column. So let's replace the text widget that says search, and let's add a column. So you remember, if you think about rows and columns when you're building your layouts, you're going to get really far. And that's how you actually compartmentalize your widgets and you lay it out. You start by using those core widgets, rows, and columns. And then from there, you distribute how your application is laid out. So let's add that column, like I said. So let's add a column widget. And of course, just add the same thing, cross-axis alignment. And also I'll do the cross-axis alignment of start. I want them all left aligned in there. Awesome. Let's continue in there. And now let's add our first widget, which is that discover label, which is just a text widget. And I want you to type it, but I can also even paste it in here, but I want to force you to get into the habit of exercising your fingers and creating these widgets. So I'm going to type it here. You remember the column takes a children property. And inside of that array, you add your text widget, which is that discover label. So I'm going to do a text widget with the text discover. Inside of that same widget, what I like to do, I like to break it into multiple lines so it makes it very readable. And then you add the style property. Text widgets takes a style property. You cannot add them directly to them. So you do text style. And then inside of the text style, that's where you do your property. So you do either font weight. In this case, I want to make it bold, or bolder. So I do font weight. And you have a bunch of options like either bold, normal, or in this particular case, I do like 900 points of bold by doing like thickness. And I want to add the font size of 25. I want to have it like really big and bold. So let me just hit run and then see how it's looking so far. And then you go to discover labels right there. Perfect, very simple. If you guys don't want to do that much typing, I'm just going to copy paste it in there if you guys want. But again, I want you to type it. If you guys already did it, perfect, awesome. Let's continue down the line. You see between discover and that the next region, there's like a little bit of spacing. So I'm going to add again another size box. Size box just gives you like an empty space. Or again, like I mentioned, you can either wrap it inside a container and add margin. In this case, I want to hack it and just do like sized box and add a height of 20 on this widget. If you just hit save, of course, you won't see it until we add the next widget, which is what we're going to be focused on right now. So you don't see that size box, but you're going to see the spacing when we add it. So now let's focus on the next part, which is the search bar and that little button. So the search bar is not that region right there. If you see, it's actually a row because row adds items horizontally as opposed to a column, which adds them vertically. So the first thing that we're going to add right under the size box is a row widget. So you add the row widget. Remember, it's going to be laying out your widgets horizontally. So I'm going to add a children property because I'm going to be adding more than one item to it. So you just add the row, the children property, and then that's it. So also in Flutter, also don't think that Flutter escapes responsive design. So in this particular case, there are some widgets that allow you to tap into the responsive design of things. One of them, for example, like those of you familiar with HTML, JavaScript, and CSS, you know, for example, like the Flexbox model. The Flexbox model, you add things like you add flex components that actually resize depending on the width of the screen, or they actually distribute the space equally among the children of a parent or something like that. Flutter also has those containers. So here in step number 7, I'm introducing the widget called Expanded. An expanded widget, what it does is it takes most of the space in its parent. In this particular case, either a row or a column. If you want the widget to take most of the space, you add an expand. You wrap it inside an expanded widget. And that is kind of like using a flex widget with a flex of 1, meaning taking most of the space. So an expanded widget takes only one single child. That's exactly what we're going to be doing. You just add a child, and then I'm going to be adding a container. And it's going to be that search box that we're going to be working on right now. So I already gave you the container in step number 7. if you continue down the line, I already gave you the container that we're going to be working on. You can just copy paste it and replace this container that is in the expanded, and then just tab it to the right, and then I'm going to dissect the code again. So this container is very simple. It has a height of 50, just like you see right there. I'm adding some padding, and then I'm adding decoration. Decoration, I hadn't introduced it, but only until now. Decoration is a property that containers have that allow you to add, for example, like borders, like rounded corners, shadows, borders, a background color. So in this particular case, you've seen me how I add the color straight to the container. In this particular case, I'm adding it to the decoration. Whenever you add a decoration in a container, you have to add the color to the decoration, not to the container. For example, here you don't do the color. When you want to add the color to the container and you have for example, like a decoration, like a border radius, you have to add the color in here. Otherwise, you're going to get an exception from Flutter. So now you see that, we added the border radius, like the rounded corners, to our container just by adding a decoration property and the border radius property with a circular, like rounded edge of 10 pixels. Let's continue down the line. And then now we're going to add the items inside of that container. Remember, containers, the way that you structure your application is by adding those core widgets. Like a container can have a row can have a column, the column has another container, the container has a row, so on and so forth. That's how you structure it. In this particular case, I want to add a row inside of my container, which I'm already providing to you. So inside of this container, I'm going to add a row because I want to add this little search icon and the label that says search. So because they're laid out horizontally, that's actually a row. So I want to add a row widget as a child of this container. So you do child, row, and then you add the children in here. Like, just like any row widget does. So you take a row, this is going to be the child of that container. Because this container has a padding of 10, you will see that my row will be surrounded by that padding. And all you can do is just, in the code, I already pasted, already provided the code for that row. I'm going to drop it here in the message as well. You see that's the code for the row. So if I just type the widgets that are inside the row, actually, I just need to replace this children property. Sorry about that. Actually, the whole row. Sorry, I'm replacing the whole row. Let me actually do it like this. So I'll replace the whole row. There we go. And then that's it. So inside of the row, I'm adding 3 widgets. An icon, which is a search icon, a size box, just a little bit of spacing, and the text, which is just a label that just says search, something like that, with a color of gray. If I hit run, you will see now the little widget showing up in there after it compiles. Exactly. So there you go. And then that says just an icon that says search, and then that's in a label that says search. Simple as that. So you see, things are taking shape. Yes, when you encounter a right overflow by pixels issue, when the parenthesis is put in correctly, when you get that is because you need to make sure that, for example, in this particular case, you need to make sure that, I don't know whether you're like either when you get something like that, like right overflow by a certain amount of pixels, is because you're either your window is a little bit too small. That is normal when you're debugging, and that gives you that error. Make sure that your screen is like resized appropriately so that you could get like that like phone view or something like that. So try to stretch it a little more. That is when you can also, I'm not going to be touching that topic in this particular workshop, but this is a good segue for what I mentioned before, which is responsive design. In Flutter, you can implement responsive design when you see that your widgets are crunching up, or like getting an issue like that. You can maybe change the like the width when it hits like certain breakpoints and so on. But that's a very good question. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, you can just stretch it, and then you don't see like those issues anymore. And make sure that at least your parentheses, yes, you see, make sure that your parentheses are properly aligned. So let's proceed. Now, the next widget that we're going to be worrying about is that button on the right-hand side right here, which is just, you can either create your own buttons. That's exactly why I created it like this. So you can create like your own button. And then I created it right here, which is just a simple container that has like some of those properties. So right next to this row, as you can see it, right outside of the expanded, make sure that you're following the proper indentation of the parentheses. Make sure that you're outside of the expanded, and you're going to be adding this button. So next to the expanded, right here, you see the little red highlighting in here. You add a comma, and then you're going to paste that container that will represent the button. So I'm going to be copying that code. I'm already providing it there. And then if you paste it right here, it's just a container. So that button right there, you could create a button, but you can create also your custom button. In this particular case, it's just a container with the margin on the left, width and height of 50 pixels. The decoration, remember that the box decoration that use containers, I'm adding the same color of the main color, and I'm adding round edges of 10 pixels. And as a child of this container, I'm just adding an icon. That's it, an icon widget. And if you hit run, that's right, custom it is. There you go. See, and thank you, Leopoldo, for that comment. Try not to settle when you're building your applications. Try not to settle for the defaults that you get out of the material design. I mean, if you want to do something quick, perfect. But make sure that your applications are very unique. And that is the beauty of Flutter, that it gives you that amount of customization. And remember, you own every pixel in Flutter. That's why I'm creating like all of these just from scratch, so you can see the potential that Flutter has for you to create your own custom widgets. So with that, I think I'm all done with this particular widget. I just wanted to get a pulse on everyone in here, making sure that everybody is good to go for the step number 8, which is now we're going to be going into more fun widgets. We're going to be doing list views. We're going to be using more stacks and whatnot. Perfect. Awesome. So let's continue with step number 8. So step number 8, we're going to be now focused on the list view. This list view is one of those versatile widgets that allow you to do scrolling. And then it has multiple widgets in there. So we're going to be working now on that centerpiece, which is the list view that represents each one of those cards. You could like import a package that gives you this, but here I'm going to show you how you could create it from scratch. So let's all direct our attention to step number 8 on Flutter CodeLab number 2. And now let's work on that. So you see, I already broke it down to show you how it's actually composed of. So it's a list view that has a container. It has a list view inside. Then each one of the items is actually another container with a background image. And inside of that container is just a column that has 2 labels laid up on top of each other. Simple as that. It's not that hard. That's why I broke it down like this. So perfect. Yes, we are recording the session and we'll be posting it soon. Leopoldo can give us more information about that, but definitely we're recording it. And Musa, you can replay this and play. And the 2 collabs are going to be available for you guys if you want to do it on your own and all that. Thank you very much for your question, and again, thank you very much for joining. So let's continue with the code. So let's now work on that piece. So same thing as before. Now we're going to be doing something a little bit more complex. We're going to be adding models. So in step number 8, I'm going to be adding our first model. A model is nothing more than a class that encapsulates some logic. And in Flutter, they call it like PODOs, plain old Dart objects, because we're using Dart as the main language. You have to create your models that represent the data that you feed into your widgets. So the first model is actually the model that represents each one of those mountains. Like one of the mountains, the model has like a field for, let me actually copy paste it so you guys can start seeing it. And here I'm gonna add a comment saying like models. And this is a model. It's just a simple class that has a path, meaning the path to the image, the name of the mount, location, just like the location, and a description. Very simple. And then you create this, and then you populate data into it, and you feed it to your widgets, and that's how you create like how you feed data into your widgets, and you make your widgets come to life. So let's continue down the line, and I also provided some mock data for you to feed to this widget. So if you direct your attention to step number 8, you have the model up top. And then I gave you here already like some hard-coded mocked data that you're gonna feed for each one of those mounts. So scroll all the way up. You can copy the array of those mounts and you can just paste it right here. Look at the top. Sorry about that. So I think I pasted, I copied too much. So let me copy it again, because I think I copied way too much. And then now all I'm gonna do is just paste it here. You see, I'm already feeding like a list, like those of you who already know object-oriented programming, Dart has lists, and then I'm populating like a bunch of values in there. Perfect, simple as that. So now let's use those, the hard-coded mock data that I provided using also this model, and then we're gonna be creating the widget that will represent those things. So the first thing on step number 8 is, let's go back again to the Mounts app page, which is right here. Look, you can even search and say like Mounts app. So here we are in the Mounts app widget. And then right under the app search, let's add an expanded widget. So you add an expanded widget. And then in here, we're going to be adding a child. Remember that expanded is one of those widgets that occupy most of the parent, and then it has only one child. And then we're going to come up with something. We're going to make it up. We're going to call it app mount list view. You could call it anything, but remember, this is just going to encapsulate our custom widget. And then that's it. So now all I'm going to, I provided the code already that has the class that represents that custom widget. And then you can just paste it right under here, like under the Mounts app. So you can just paste it right here. And there you go. Now the error disappears. If you hit run, now you will see this, and again, this custom widget that you will see that it shows mount list. Awesome, that's it. So now let's proceed in adding more items to this custom widget. So the first thing that we're gonna be doing is, again, like we started before, let's add some width to this container. So let's add a height, some dimensions, I'm sorry. So we're gonna add a height of 150. We're not gonna add any width because this is a container that will kind of stretch to the width of the window, and it's gonna be providing like some rails for adding like a list view in there. So add a height of 50. And then you can continue down the line, and now we're gonna add a list view. A list view is a widget that provides like scrolling capabilities, and you can add multiple items to it. I've already provided some of the code that will allow you to do that. So just replace the text widget in there. Just replace the text widget by the code that I provided, which is the list view. So let me paste it, and let me dissect the code for you. So again, I'm adding a child to this container, which is a list view. A list view has a method called builder, which takes 3 parameters. The scroll of the direction of the scroll, which I'm saying is horizontal, how many items I'm gonna be adding to this list view, and a item builder, which is a callback method that for every item in my collection called mount items, remember the one that I pasted above, for each one of those items is gonna be adding a callback that is going to spit out a widget. Each one of the widgets is one of those cards that have the mount information in there. Awesome. So let's continue. So you see, I'm just returning like a dummy container. But now let's proceed now and get the information from this collection, and let's feed it to each one of the widgets that is going to be generated. In step number 8, you're going to be pulling now a photo object called mount model. So you type mount model, and then you can call it whatever you want. I'm going to be calling it current mount. And then you use the collection, and then you say mount items. And then you retrieve the item based on the index that this very handy item builder provides you. So you're going to fetch one item in the iteration. And then now we're going to be creating a container that will allow you to build this whole widget. So I'm going to type it here, and then I'm going to type it also for you in the chat to expedite the process. So I'm going to be creating a container. See each one of the cards that has like the background image with the label and all that. This is what we're creating. We're creating that shell. So let's start adding an alignment. And then I'm going to say alignment bottom left. You see like the mount name is going to be all aligned bottom and left. Add some padding to it. And then I'm going to add padding all around it of 20 pixels. I'm going to add margin or also of 10 pixels all around. And also I'm going to add a width. So remember, each one of these cards is going to have a width of 150 pixels. So I'm going to add width of 150. Simple as that. Now I'm going to be adding some decoration. So actually, let me grab this return statement, and I'm going to be dropping it here. Exactly. So thank you, Randall, for that. Also, this view has one that if you want to have a fixed list of items, you can just pass a children to it. Very good. You can actually do that. And here is just the container that I just typed. As a now we're going to be adding the decoration for this container. The decoration we're going to be adding, remember, is the background image is also part of the decoration. Rounded edges is part of the decoration. So you do that through the decoration property. So you do decoration, box decoration, and then the box decoration is the one that allows you to do border radius, and then you do border radius circular, and then you add like 15 pixels all around it. So, thank you, Randall, for that. Awesome. So, and then you do image, and then now remember, this is a container that is going to have a background image. You can only do it via the decoration property. So you do image, and then you do decoration image, and then you pass an image property, which remember, I'm already passing in the model called a current mount, and then you can just leverage by just saying network image, which is another widget, and then you pass the model, and then in the model, remember, there's a property called path. This is the path that points to the image on the internet that feed that grabs the path of that image for you. Exactly. So that's exactly what we're going to be doing. So you do current mount path, and that path is going to be fed in there. That's it. And then you do a fit, because I wanted to stretch the boundaries of my container. So I do box fit cover, and then that's it. So I'm going to be there you go. And then you pass the image fit to the decoration. And then you do like box fit cover, but actually you do box fit cover. There you go. That's it. And then I'm going to drop the whole container. So if you guys are, don't feel like typing or anything, let me just do that and paste it right there. If I hit run, now you will see a little bit of stuff going on now after I render this. So now it will show us that we're making progress. There you go. My images are showing, and then I can even scroll and whatnot. They're still loading, of course, because they're being fetched from the internet. But you see, like now they're already coming up. So that's awesome. So far, so good. So let's continue. Let me just, I think it's still just like hanging for me. And then, we're going to be proceeding now to adding the items inside of that, of each one of those widgets. So inside of step number 8, we're going to just be, there you go. So all the images loaded, which is awesome. There you go. Now we're going to be adding what's inside of each one of those widgets. Let me just hide this thing so you can see the whole thing. And there you go. Now we want to add the content inside of each one of those cards. In step number 8, remember, inside of that container, we're going to be adding a child. Remember, this is a container. The container already has the background image. Now we want to add a child to that. So we add a child right here, which is a column. And then the column, remember, it takes more than one child. So I want to add like some alignments. You do like max main axis alignment. And then you say main axis alignment at end. End means add it all the way to the bottom. So I add a column and then align it all the way to the bottom in the main axis. So I'm going to say main axis alignment dot end. And then the cross axis alignment, which is a horizontal alignment, to make it to the left, you say cross axis alignment. And then you do cross axis alignment start. That means just left align it. And I've already provided here what the children of these columns are so that you can save some typing. Remember, the column takes a children property, and then you can add a couple of items in there. In our particular case, we're adding more than one item, which is a couple of text labels. So you can just copy from the children property, which is in the step number 8. In step number 8, I added the children. I'm actually going to be pasting it in here as well for you guys. These are just the children that are going in here, which is just 2 text widgets. I'm going to just do the tabbing in here. And if I just hit run, now you will see those 2 labels aligned at the bottom of the container, left aligned, and using the background image, as the background of that container right there. Awesome. So that's exactly what I wanted to show you, and then that's it. And then you see like they're kind of hiding to the right hand side is because they're already providing like that scrolling capability. Awesome. So far so good, guys. How's everyone doing? Perfect. So I hope that everybody's following along. Again, like I said, if you are falling behind, you can just go to step 12 and all the code is there. Awesome. Now let's proceed to do the category list, which is just the list below. The one that has like that label called category, the label that says see more, and then like this whole list in here. And just as a, as a spoiler, it's exactly the same way as the list view right here, because we're leveraging all those capabilities. And then you're making all these completely custom without importing any libraries for you. So let's go to step 9. And then let's work on the category list. Same thing as before. I'm going to show you my screen, and then you see here the category list, what we're going to be working on. And then if you see, it's just exactly pretty much the same thing. This is going to be like a list view widget with a couple of labels, and then just like some hard-coded stuff in there. So we're going to be showing that. And then you see how I broke it down, so you see how it works. So let's work on that piece right now. Same thing, we're going to be using a model. Again, I encourage you using models to feed data into your widgets, and then that's how you encapsulate the data. You're much closer to when you build your final application. You already have the models that your widgets require and all that. So for this widget, for this category list, we're going to need a class or a poto object called category model. So we're going to be calling it category model, which has 2 properties, category and just the icon. That's it. And then that's exactly what we're feeding here. So I also have like some mock data. So please copy paste it because I wanted to save you some typing in there. So you can just copy this mock data. Like I'm already feeding all that, like all the categories and the icons. So you can just copy this piece. And then you can just paste it all the way at the top because I'm adding all of these things for you so that you can save some typing, and we're faking like tapping into like a service or something like that. Awesome. So after you do that, now let's proceed and go back to our mounts application, mounts app. And then here in the mounts app, we're still, remember, stacking things to this column, to the main body. Remember, it's a column and we're stacking things. So under the expanded widget, which is the one that takes most of the space, which is our list view, we're going to add another widget. We're going to be calling it app category list. Simple as that. So this is another custom widget that we're going to be creating. I already provided some of the boilerplate code on step 9. You can just copy paste it. I'm going to be adding it right underneath it so we can focus on that. And then you go, it's the category list. So again, remember custom widgets, extend a stateless widget. And I'm just adding like a bogus container in here. So let me just do run in here. And then that's it. So now we're going to be seeing that placeholder, and it says categories. Is like exactly Control-C, Control-V is your friend. Exactly. And then you see like the categories label right there. Perfect. So now we know that we have our placeholder like right underneath it, and we're going to be adding that thing. So again, same thing. You see how we're using the same columns, same rows, same things. We're using like all of these core components, and they're being like, and now you're doing this like in auto mode. You're using columns, you're using rows, you're using containers. It's the same core widgets that you use in order to build your widgets. So now I'm gonna fly through this one because you've already seen me already doing some of this stuff. So I'm gonna do exactly what I'm gonna be building here. So I'm in my container. I'm gonna be adding a column. You already know what a column does, so I don't have to repeat or be repeating myself. It's adds children, and I'm gonna be adding just 2 empty containers. One container will represent the top row, and then like the top item. I'm sorry, the top labels, and another container I'm gonna be using it for the list view. So again, I'm repeating myself, but you build all these widgets using composition, building pieces piece by piece using those core widgets. So inside of, now let's focus on the top widget, the container. I'm gonna be adding one single child, which is a row, but I'm gonna be adding some padding to this. So I'm gonna be adding some padding all around it using edge insets.all. I've already done this before. I'm already repeating myself. And I'm gonna be adding just a child, which is a single row widget. And I'm already helping you out, and I'm already adding the whole in step number 9. I'm already adding the code for that row, and then the row, what the row will do is actually just add those 2 labels, the category label and the see more label. So how do you lay those out? So let me just paste the code for the row, which is right there. And the row adds, this is one of the things that I like to use. Like I like to use row and use this space between attribute of the row. What it does is any rows that you add in there, it stretches them and adds space in between. Instead of you adding individual widgets, one to align it to the left and one to align it to the right, you just add all the widgets inside of the row and just tell them to go each one to your corner, to their corners by adding space in between, and then that's it. So if I hit run in here, now you will see 2 text widgets, each one separated by some space in between, and I did not tell anything to these widgets. I told it to the parent. I told align your widgets inside yourself with just space in between. Simple as that. Now we're going to be proceeding with the bottom piece, which is the list view. Already, like Randall mentioned, you can use a regular list view with children with fixed items. You can use that one. You can use the list view builder. You can use a couple of other utility methods. I'm going to be continuing using that list builder. So since I've already explained it before, all I'm going to do is just, again, actually remember, right now we're going to be focused on the bottom container. So let's add what's missing in this container, which is I'm going to be fixing the height of this widget. I'm going to just be adding 100 pixels of height and adding some margin only on the left using the edge insets dot only left of 10 pixels. Perfect. So awesome. There you go. So I add 10 pixels on the left of that container. And then you see now a little bit of like margin to the left of that container. If you continue down the line, again, like I showed you, I already have the list view builder for you. So let's all do that. Let's Control V, Control C, and then let's just paste it inside of that second container. So if I just do enter and paste, I'm going to do some alignment working here. And let me just dissect it again. I'm going to be doing horizontal scrolling. I'm going to be basing it off this categories list that I pasted above. I have my models called categories. Simple as that. This is that widget. So let's continue going back to this one. And the item builder, this is where we're going to be building each one of the separate widgets. And already here, we're going to be doing exactly the same thing that I did in the one above. So we're going to be pulling that widget out of that category, out of that array. So I'm going to be saying category model. I'm going to be pulling each one of the out of the models. So I'll be doing current category, call it anything, and then I'm going to pull it out of the categories using the index. Simple as that. Now after that, I'm going to be building that container for you, which I've already pasted it for you just to save you some typing. And then you see I'm pulling each one of the objects out of that array. And then here is where I'm building each one of these little blocks that will represent each one of those cards. So each one has a width of 100 pixels, has a margin and padding. And the decoration adds the border and some border radius. All I'm going to ask you to do in here is just add the little column that adds the icon and the widget and the label in there, which I think I'm already, I haven't provided it for you, but I'm asking you to do it here in this container, which I'm going to be doing for you. You just add a child column, right? And then you add the margin, of course, because you want them center aligned now in the column. So you do main axis alignment, that center. So that meaning in the column, you want to center align it. And then now you add the children. I'm going to be pasting the code for you guys, for those of you who don't want to type it, but I'm actually doing it here for you. So you add an icon. Remember that little icon, each one of the icons is being supplied by the Poto object. So here I'm pulling it out of the current category. So you do current category dot icon. It's already fed to you. And then you pass the main color. That's exactly what I'm going to be doing. And a text widget, say current category dot category. I'm going to be adding some style, of course. And then with the style is how I'm going to be providing the font size with 12 pixels and a font weight of font weight.bold. There you go. Simple as that. So now if I save that and I hit run, you will see now, you should be able to see now that we created each one of these containers, each one of those items that gets generated inside of that list view builder. Simple as that. So let me recap. It's a list view builder, which generates that scrollable container. And each one of, in this callback method, for every item in that collection, I'm going to be creating one of those little cards. As simple as that. So you can follow the code and you should be able to get that. Awesome. And now that we have that one, last but not least, we're going to be doing the last widget so that we can wrap up this this first session. We're going to be doing the app bottom bar. The app bottom bar, you can actually get it from, you can create like your own app bottom bars. I suggest you doing your own, but you can actually get one from any libraries or any packages. But here we're going to be creating the last widget, which is a custom bottom bar. So again, just the same, we're going to be focused on just that bottom piece, and that's exactly what I'm going to be doing. So just to wrap up the session, I'm going to be creating the last widget. I'm going to be calling it app bottom bar. And just like before, this is just like very repetitive, but I want to show you how you create your own stuff. Just simple as that. The difference with this widget is that this widget is not just like the ones before. This one is called a stateful widget because we're going to be maintaining state within a widget. So the difference, the two most common widgets are stateful widgets and stateless widgets. Stateful widgets maintain the state within themselves, and every time there is a change of that state within that widget, the widget rebuilds. So that's exactly what we're going to be doing here. So I've already provided the code. So that you can create your stateful widget. The syntax is just a little bit different. Instead of you creating a class that extends stateless widget, it's just you have to create two classes. One class that extends stateful widget that overrides a method called createState, and then a state class, which is the one that actually encapsulates the state for your widget. So Flutter, when it creates your widget that is stateful, it creates your widget, it mounts it on the widget tree, and then it keeps a state. Regardless of your widget rebuilding, it keeps the state as like a single instance. And then that way the state doesn't get regenerated, but the widget does. And then the widget, every time the state changes, the state notifies, the state notifies the widget to rebuild. It picks up the new state and then it refreshes and shows you the new state. That's why they call that widgets are immutable, but a state object is mutable. And I'm going to explain that in a second. So you can just paste right now the two classes, the stateful widget and the state. The stateful widget overrides the createState method, And the second class, the ones that wraps the state, where we're going to be maintaining the state, is the one that overwrites the build method. And then if I just hit run, we should be able to see that label that says bottom bar right here. Simple as that. It's just going to take a little bit. And there you go. It just says bottom bar. So let's proceed down the line. And then now we're going to be creating, again, a model that will represent each one of those items, just like we did before. We're going to be creating a poto object, a plain old Dart object. I'm just going to be pasting it right here. And you see that it's called app bottom item. It has 3 properties: icon, which is each one of the icons in the app bottom bar; a flag, whether the app bottom item is selected or not. That's the one that we're going to be changing the state and keeping in memory, like state. And then that's the one that is going to dictate whether each one of the items is selected or not. And just the label that just show the label. And you see, like, I'm already defining this label, like this property, to false, even though, of course, by default, you can just say like is selected equals false, like that. Anyway, let's continue down the line. And of course, we're going to be going to the state object. So to the state class, the one that is going to be maintaining the state. So if you want to maintain the state within your widget, you create like some properties in there, the ones that are going to be maintaining the state and letting the widget know how to rebuild itself. So I'm going to be creating a list called a list of app bottom bar items. And then I'm going to be calling it bar items. And this is just going to be keeping each one of the items in the bottom bar. Simple as that. I've already provided the code that populates those. So let me just paste it right here for you. And there you go. So you have an array of app bottom bar items. And based on each one of these items, I'm going to be creating my app bottom bar, which those items in there. And I'm going to be maintaining the state within this widget. That's why I'm adding this property in here, because I'm going to be keeping it just consolidated in there. If you go down the line, we're going to be now creating the container for the main container for the bottom bar, which I've already provided the code for you. Again, this is much boilerplate code because, again, I know you guys already know how to create containers. You guys already know how to add margins. You guys already know how to add the decoration to a container. But this is the only one that I'm adding new, which is a shadow. So a decoration, like I said, you can add border radius, you can add colors, borders, border radius. In this case, you can add a shadow. So you see the bottom bar has like a little bit of a shadow. Let me run it for you so you see what it looks like. And then you see at the bottom, you will see that it will say like bottom bar, and it will have like a container with some shadow around it. That's it. So now let's delve into this widget and let's create each one of those individual items. So after that, what I'm going to be doing is creating a row, because you see that the bottom bar is actually laid out as a row. So as a child of this widget, the app bottom bar, let me replace this text widget by a row widget. Remember, row widget just lays out the items as a row. So you just do row. And then a row has children, of course, because you can add more than one item. And we're going to be adding all the widgets and laying them out with space around. So that's how you use, that's why you do main axis alignment and the main axis alignment of space around, which is saying add all the items and then distribute them accordingly with some space around it. Simple as that. Now, each one of the children is actually going to be generated dynamically, because remember, I have a list here, like a collection, and then I want to loop through this collection and generate each one of those app bottom bar items. So how do you do it? You use a utility method that Flutter provides you called list.generate. So this list class right here, you can actually feed another list into it, and then it generates yet another list. It's kind of like the map method that you use, for example, like for mapping all the items on one list and converting it to another list when you mutate like the items in that collection. So the way that you do it, you use this method, very handy method called list.generate. Into this method, you pass a couple of parameters. You pass how many items you want to generate you want to mutate your list of. In this case, I'm going to say bar items.length, meaning as many items I have in this list, I want a bottom bar item. So I pass that parameter in there. I mistype this, so length. And then, as always, you like some of these methods take like a callback, and then it takes an index. The index is, again, the index of each one of the items in the iteration. And I've already provided, again, the same thing as I've done it before. Inside of this callback method, you pull the item out of this collection on each iteration within this callback method. So I'm going to pull each one of these items based on the index. So I'm going to be saying app bottom bar item, current bar item, and then you just pull it out of the array. So you do bar items, and then you fetch it out of the based on the index. Simple as that. Out of this callback method, you're going to return something. Remember, because when you loop through that array, you're going to be spitting out each one of the items in that bottom bar. So I'm going to be returning something called widget. Let me scroll up so you guys can see it. Something called widget, bar item widget. I'm returning a widget because widget is kind of like the base class of all widgets that you create is the widget. So that's why whether I create a custom widget, a container, a column, whatever, everything is a widget. That's why I have it like that. Now you're going to have to add some logic, of course, when you do like this iteration. So you want to check whether the value of each one of your items is selected or not. That is the state that you're actually keeping track of. So the way that you do it, and I've already provided the code for this, is based on an if statement. So you check when you're looping through each one of the items, you check. If the current bar item is selected, then you're gonna make it look like that little label that looks like red with some border around it, and it has like the little icon and label, and it looks red. So that is what I want my widget to look when the current item is selected. So you see, I'm creating a container with some padding, some decoration. I'm assigning it to that bar item. So if the current bar is selected, I want to render something. And then here in this exact same widget, I'm going to be adding a child. Sorry about that. And then I already provided the code for you because I already know that you know how to create, create rows and children and whatnot. So inside of my container, if the item is selected, I want it to look red. I want to add some border radius, and I'm going to add a row. Remember, the row is actually the icon and the label with a little bit of spacing in between. That's exactly how I'm laying my items inside of that container. If it's selected, I want it to look like that. And then that's it. And you see now I have, again, I added a row, and then I added them horizontally. Else, if it's not selected, I've already provided the code in here. Now I say, if it's not selected, I want it to look different. I want it to look gray and nothing selected, and just show it normal. So that's exactly how you do here. So you say, if it's selected, then you do this. Else, it's going to look, I'm going to assign it also to my bar item widget. And then I want it just to look like a regular widget, an icon button widget. So icon, you use the icon button widget, and then you pass the icon button widget is another widget that takes an icon. This one doesn't take any child, like Randall mentioned earlier. This doesn't take any children or anything, but it takes an icon, and then the icon will be the same icon, again, provided by the model in the iteration. So I'm going to be using current bar item dot icon, and just adding the color of gray to it. An icon button has an event called onPressed, just like any other those buttons have that. So you have to add it as a requirement to the icon button. And then I'm going to show you what are we going to be doing on the onPressed. So I want to do, when I press it, I want to set the state of the current item to selected while telling everybody else to be not selected. That's how you change the state of your widget, trigger a rebuild, and Flutter listens to that change in the state and re-renders itself. And then it shows you the new state of the widget. So the thing that we're going to be doing here is, if it's selected, it's going to be showing like so. If not, show me normal. But when I click on that item, I want to rebuild that widget based on the new state, meaning I'm selected while the other ones are not. So the way that you do that in Flutter inside of a stateful widget is using the set state method. The set state method is provided to you as in a stateful widget for you to trigger the change in your state, so that Flutter listens to the change. Oh, there's a change. Now, instead of being true, it's false. And then I think Roman, what he wants is to change it from looking like this, but like this, when this property changes. But anytime you do a change of the state, it has to be within the set state method. So what I'm going to be doing in the set state method is actually changing the state of my models. And what I'm going to be doing is this. Inside of the set state, I'm telling Flutter, change everybody in my collection but me to false, meaning I'm looping through all of them. If the item is equals to me, meaning is this me? Yeah, okay, this is me. So just make me true, while the other ones, you make it false. So that's exactly what we're doing. But you have to do it inside of the set state, in the set state event. So when I press, you call set state, and inside of set state, it takes a callback method. Inside of that callback method, you do the change that you want, the state that you want to change, and then this in turn tells Flutter to rebuild itself. So now let's see what this looks like. And at the end, of course, I'm sorry, I forgot to do this piece, because remember, we're still going through the changes. Just return the generated widget, the bar item widget. I'm sorry, widget. That's it. So now I'm going to be running it, and then I'm going to show you what it looks like. So every time you click, remember, it's going to be using the onPress change. If the widget is selected like it is right now, remember, I already by default marked this as true to show you the state as selected. But when you click it, nothing happens, because this one doesn't have any clicking event. But if it's not selected, it's going to be using the icon button, meaning this one. And when I press it, if I click on one of these guys, you will see it when it changes. It's just a little bit of a delay. There you go. And then what it does, you hardly saw it. It re-rendered the whole widget, and then just this one marked it as selected, and just replaced when the set state got triggered, this whole build method got called. That's something that you need to be mindful of. Every time you call set state on a stateful widget, the build method gets called every time. Every time I click on one of these icon buttons, is going to re-render the widget, because it has to update itself based on the new state of the widget. That's why Flutter is considered like very efficient and very performant, because it only updates not the whole page, not the whole application, not the whole container, but just the widget where the build method, where inside of the build method, the set state got triggered. So if I click on some other items, you see now like all those other widgets just changing back and forth, and just changing like the state. And you see how cool it is? You're maintaining the widget, and that's one of the things that I encourage you to do when you're doing like widgets that are maintaining state. You can use the set state. Other people might say, oh, you can use, for example, a more comprehensive, a more global kind of state management, because here you're maintaining state but only this widget. But what if your state needs to be lifted? Needs to be, for example, one widget you click something and another one you want it to react. That is when you look into other approaches like the provider pattern for like state management, RiverPod, GetX. There's a bunch of others, and I know that a lot of people have already maybe heard of those things. But remember, this workshop is only focused on layout, UI layouts, exactly what we just did. And then if you continue, that's it, guys. So this is exactly what I wanted to show you in the RiverPod, exactly, Randall. And I've I know you're a fan of RiverPod. I've seen some of your videos. You actually do a lot of cool stuff. RiverPod is like the way to go. But if you want to do like something simple, again, like state management, like the simple set state, could work for you. But if you want to do something more robust, something more professional, more business level, you want to look at something like RiverPod, Provider, or something like that. Exactly. But set state for people like you that are starting, is sufficient. So what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to uncomment the splash page, and I'm just going to do a quick recap, and then we're going to be wrapping this session. Just by hitting run again, I'm going to be showing you what we just did. So remember, in this session, what we did, we built the splash screen. It takes 2 seconds to load, and then it gives you this landing page that we just created right now. It gives me a couple of custom widgets that we just created, a couple of list views that allows me to scroll through my items. We created some custom cards, and we created all the custom widgets. We did stateful and stateless widgets. I showed you how you trigger a change on a stateful widget by calling set state, and then that rebuilds your widget. So does anybody have any questions so far? Who has, for example, like some of you has completed both code labs based on the links that we provided? Has anybody followed along? Awesome, perfect. So very good. So now, as a wrap up, I'm just gonna show you just some last screens in here. And then just as a wrap up, I just wanted to give you one more kind of like test on how you guys are doing on the second code lab, to test your knowledge, how much you grasped out of the second code lab that we just did. So let's just go over before we wrap up. So please join us Slido.com with the code 491853, and let's test your knowledge of what we just did on that code lab. So question number 1, which of the following widgets align its widgets one on top of each other in a layered fashion? Is it the stack? Is it the column? Or is it a row? So which one actually stacks the items? The column also does that, rows also does that, but the stack also does that. All of them have children, but which one lays them out on top of each other in a layered fashion? So some people are already saying stack. I'm just going to give you a few seconds for some people to join. If you want to join in this conversation, join at Slido.com with the code 491853. Some people are saying stack, and the actual answer is stack, correct. So you saw it already. A stack adds items one on top of each other. Remember, we did each one of the cards of the list view builder. It has like a background image, and then we added that as a container. But in the splash screen, we use that to add the widget in the center, align it at the center, and another widget align at the bottom. So we use the stack for that. Which widget aligned its items vertically? So we have the column, we have a stack, and we have a row. Which one aligns the items vertically? Column, stack, or a row? I already see some answers being laid out. So vertically, remember, from top to bottom. So which ones does it from top to bottom? When you see it like this, which one does it vertically? A column, a stack, or a row? I see some people already answering, and the correct answer is a column. So you get it vertically when you populate the children property of a column, they get added vertically for you. This one, it says, which widget you can use to add margin to a child widget? Is it the margin widget? Is it a container widget? Or is it a constraint widget? So which one you use it to add margin to a widget? Let's say my widget is too tight. I want to add some margin to the bottom of my widget, kind of like the way we did to the circular progress indicator. Thank you again, Leopoldo, for dropping the code in there. Again, join us Slido.com with the code 451. And which one do you think adds margin to a child widget? Margin widget, container widget, or the constraint widget? The right one is container widget. Margin widget doesn't exist. Container widget exists, and you can add margin. And the constraint widget doesn't exist either. Container widget, you add it and then you populate the property margin. You can also use the padding property of the container, but there's a widget for padding. So you can either use a container or a padding. People tend to point users towards going for the specific widgets as opposed to overusing a container. But in this case, you use a container for adding margin because there's no margin widget. And I think the last one, what do you think? Everything in Flutter is a widget, true or false? Just answer, please provide your answer, whether everything in Flutter is a widget. Is a button a widget? Is a stateful widget a widget? Is a column a widget? Is a row a widget? Is everything a widget? Is the application a widget? That's what it says. Is everything in Flutter a widget? Yes or no? And the right answer is yes. Everything is a widget, but I love that a lot of people said false. Why? Because there are other things that are not widget within Flutter. People say Flutter and even Google, which created Flutter, they go with a mantra saying everything in Flutter is a widget because pretty much everything is a widget. But they consider a widget like anything that gets rendered on the screen. But for example, let's say the provider, let's say widget. Riverpod state management, those are widgets. An HTTP widget is a widget. A padding widget, a lot of things that you don't visually see are widgets also. So yeah, classes that you create frequently used are not widgets. The list, remember, we just showed that. Thank you for that example, Randall. A list is not a widget, but those are things that you use in Flutter in conjunction with your widgets that facilitate the creation of your application. So, but pretty much, yes, exactly. Pretty much everything is a widget. Exactly. And again, we were not keeping scores, but I'm glad that Syed, you actually are the leaderboard leading here. But awesome, great. So even though we were not keeping scores, but anyway, I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for sticking with us for 2 hours just coding. Going through a lot of the Flutter. For those of you who have been just exposed to Flutter, please continue your Flutter journey. We're going to be having the second session of Flutter where we're going to be wrapping up this application on a third code lab. It's just going to be one more code lab, the third and final code lab next week. Please stay tuned because we're going to be dropping that again also in LinkedIn. So again, without further ado, if you guys have any questions, let me know. We can just give a few minutes for that. Other than that, Leopoldo, take it away, man.
Roman, you've been amazing. This has been a great experience for absolutely everybody in here. I believe that you've kept everyone's attention at peak performance. So I want to thank you once again for your time, for your dedication, and for this great code lab. I believe that everybody was super engaged. And guys, okay, do you guys want to be able to have Roman again back? Yes? What? Okay. Well, good news is that Roman has decided to grace us with his appearance once again next week, same time, same hour for part 2. And I just dropped the link below. Some of you have questions. Some of you have asked, well, is this going to be recorded? Well, yes, this is currently being recorded. And I'll be uploading that into our GDG Fremont channel, okay? And I have just dropped that one as well, okay? Other than that, thank you one more time for everybody that has been participating, okay? Thank you very much, Roman. And if you happen to have any questions, feel free to shoot us a message, okay, to our GDG Fremont, GDG Cloud Fremont, or GDG Cloud Silicon Valley chapters. Other than that, stay sharp, guys, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.